art and sports are the two easiest way to impact young people's hearts and minds.
That's true.
You need to speak their language. Lessons learned. Live your life to the most. My father used to love life.
This episode is brought to you by EFG Hermes One, your one app for investing in more than 35 stock markets worldwide. This episode is also brought to you by Azza Fahmi Jewelry. Hi everyone, welcome back to What I Did Next from A&T Media. I'm Malak Fuad, your host. I sit down with a new guest each month and we take a look at their life journey and their most pivotal moments. Joining me today is Thuraya Ismail, the CEO of Mentor Arabia. Mentor Arabia is an organization that dedicates itself to improving the lives of young Arabs. It has a special emphasis on looking at drug prevention. Across the region, it's helped 1.5 million beneficiaries. Stay tuned for a deeper dive into the organization in part 2, which is coming out next week. I'm so impressed with Thuraya's work, and I was so happy to sit down with her and get a real in-depth look at her journey as well as her work with Mentor Arabia. I want to start, please, with your early years. You are of Syrian origin, but you were born and raised in Riyadh.
I'm Saudi.
And you're Saudi.
Yes. I believe I had a very positive childhood, and your only source of information back then was either your parents or school. So we were kind of sheltered. And I appreciate the surrounding that I grew up in, the healthy environment that I was in. Of course, seeing what's happening now in Saudi and all the opportunities that are being there makes me feel very happy. But at the same time, I feel why it didn't happen back in the days when we were there, you know?
You know, I have some friends in Saudi. I think I've spoken about this on another episode. And they've always said to me, the true character of the Saudis is what you see now. And before, it was just hidden.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
I feel
especially for females.
Exactly.
Yani the opportunities that are being present right now. And Saudi females are very strong.
That's
They are
right.
strong women, educated. They have a strong will, dedicated. They want to prove themselves. And in addition to that, they are full of creativity and innovation. You see individual talents in Saudi Arabia that I have never seen before, both males and females.
Yeah.
So back to your question about my upbringing. My father is a physician. He was a physician of the royal family in Saudi Arabia. And, he was very busy. He travels a lot. But at the same time, he dedicated his life to us, to his children, to his family. So it was his work and his family. And everything I learned in life, everything the values I stand for right now are those that he implanted in me, are those that his stories before bedtime were not about Layla, it was about a revolution, about something in history, about World War I and II.
And you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do.
And were you raised the same?
Absolutely. 100% equality. I'm in the middle child. I've never felt that my brothers were more privileged or they had any more rights. It's the total opposite. My parents were very liberal, open-minded, while maintaining our core values as Arabs, as Muslims, etc. So we both had the chance to go study abroad, to get exposed, and there were no...
You know, because I also grew up in Saudi, I know a lot of families like you and like me who are from somewhere else, but who take on a lot of the cultural aspects of Saudi. So the children are raised with a bit of a mix of Syrian, in your case, background, my case, Egyptian background, but taking on a lot of the cultural mores, if you like, of Saudi. Is that how it was a bit for you, or were you very Syrian?
No, it was a bit of everything. And back then I thought I had lack of identity. Now, when I look back, I feel that I was privileged because I was exposed to different cultures. Yeah. And at the same time, it gives you an edge because you become more, in French, you say polyvalent. You can fit anywhere. Yes. You can talk to any culture. You are exposed.
You're adaptable.
So it's rich. Exactly. You're adaptable, and it makes you feel rich from inside.
Yeah. You know? It's very enriching. And I think, when I look at our generation, I'm a bit older than you, but it's still relevant. So many people I know, probably live in Dubai, live in Abu Dhabi, or live in Europe or in America, but they've been raised in this way where we've become a melting pot region.
Absolutely.
So you have a bit of everything from different places, and it adds a lot to people's characters, I find.
It adds to the character.
Yes.
It adds to your ability to deal in different environments and to adapt easier and quicker. And you can also be more open to accept the other's opinion as well. So I believe that was never a challenge, rather than a plus or added value back then.
Your father sent you to AUB for university, and why did he pick Lebanon?
So I had many choices. My brother used to study in Boston. My sister was in Switzerland. So when my turn came, he said, my darling, you can pick and choose, apply everywhere. I applied to London, to DC, to Boston. One of the universities I applied for was the American University of Beirut, because the distance, it was closer.
Yes.
But he never reminded me going anywhere else.
Yes.
And I applied actually to AUC as well, because some of my friends were at AUC.
Yeah.
And I got accepted in few universities. So he told me back then, I felt deep inside he wanted me to be a bit closer.
A bit closer than the others.
Yes, and I think the anxiety of separation, like suddenly as parents, the house will be empty, you're all going, and he had to, travel around to visit us. So he gave me that choice. He said, Baba, why don't you go to Lebanon and see if you like it and felt comfortable, you can stay there. If not, you can always go back to Boston. I remember this trip very well, and it gives me goosebumps because I was so anxious. The first day we were supposed to go to university to visit and see the campus.
And this is when you went to visit, you had already decided to go?
No, I was on a scouting visit. I was accepted. Yeah. And I was just visiting to see if I want to register or not before missing the deadline. So, and I remember very well where we stayed at the Bristol in Hamra. That was a very, very famous hotel in Lebanon. The next day, we went, my father and I visited the campus, and it's just a vivid memory.
Yeah,
now
it's a beautiful campus.
It's a beautiful campus. I fell in love.
Yeah, and it feels like it's the center of Beirut.
Absolutely,
and it's very much the heart of the city.
Absolutely, yes. What happens in AUB is just a reflection of the community society in Beirut.
Exactly.
I learned this afterwards.
Yeah.
So I fell in love with it, and I felt welcomed. I felt a lot of warmth from people who never knew me, and I said, "Why not? Let's give it a try." If I don't like it for the first semester, I can go to Boston.
That's right.
And it just happened.
And you stayed.
I stayed, and then my sister followed, my brother followed, my younger brother followed, and I made it easier for my parents to come visit.
Of course.
And I never regretted this choice.
What did you study?
Political science.
Political science. And you met your future husband there?
Yes.
You met each other there. He's Lebanese.
He's Lebanese. Originally actually from Medina. I don't know what, like their family
from Medina.
Descending from Medina, but he's of course Lebanese. And we met, I was in my last year of university. He has already graduated, working in Dubai. And he was visiting pre-New Year, Christmas times in Beirut, which is lovely. And a common friend introduced us. And he says that the minute I saw you, I decided that you are my wife. Actually, it was just 3 weeks after meeting me. He told me, I'm going to marry you. And I started laughing. I said, you don't know me. I don't know you.
And you were young.
I was very young. Yeah. And I said, are you serious? I'm not even ready for this. I was planning to do my master's in London and preparing myself to travel. And he said, you will see. I will marry you.
And he waited because you did go to London.
He waited 7 years.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Persistent.
Yes. Well, also, I think it's better because when you marry so young, you don't have time to discover who you really are, I feel, in a lot of situations.
Sufi, I agree with you. I tend to agree. It applies to me. To me, I felt I became more mature, more emotionally mature, even to know what you really want. Some people, it works for them. Yes. They just get married.
It does work for some people.
It depends on your ambition, your priorities in life, your plans. So I went to London.
You went to LSE.
I went to LSE.
Which is one of the most amazing universities.
Yes, and very, very, very challenging.
Very hard.
I remember the first essay I did. I did Masters in International Affairs. And I still remember the first paper I submitted, I got like 57, and I was about to cry.
Because the gap between even the best universities in the Middle East and a university like that is big.
It is actually, it's the methodology. At LSE, they teach you how to write and how to think.
Yeah.
In AUB, they teach you how to flourish, how to blend in the community, in the society,
So the American way.
Exactly. So I thought that I was failing, I was about to cry. And then the professor came to me and said, no, all the class took this grade, by the way. Don't feel.
Oh, really? He was a tough professor then.
He was so tough. And he made sure that everyone, to learn a lesson, no one, they came from different backgrounds and different universities around the world. So we were all shocked with the first. And then I ended up graduating with distinction.
You
later on.
managed to get up, yeah,
Yes, but it was tough.
Of
It
course.
was
When did the bug begin for you for the NGO world, the philanthropic world?
I believe it's an accumulation of feelings and opinions that you build over years since my childhood. Like as I said, my father used to incept those ideas in us about humanity, about socialism, about the systems around the world,
types of societies that
and
should
by
be.
the way, my father graduated as a doctor from Ain Shams,
Egypt.
yes.
I didn't know that.
And he was a big fan, and he felt it was home to him.
And that generation, Egypt was a big educative hub.
Absolutely.
Of course.
And it's I always saw myself in an international setup where I can make a difference in the community, where I can contribute to the development of human beings, of the minds rather than the stones. So I went back to Saudi after graduation, and I knew deep inside that I don't fit in a corporate environment. I fit mostly either in an international organization with charitable, approach.
And it matched your education as
Absolutely,
well. Of course,
absolutely.
you had a good combination there.
Absolutely. With my inner love to, filmmaking and art and communication. So it was both. And I joined the UNDP, United Nations Development Program, back in Saudi as a program officer. And I had a brilliant UN representative, Dr. Mustafa bin Lamdih, who became a mentor to me and more a father figure as well.
And anything I find UN related, maybe not so much now, but at the time, it was still a very good school to teach you mechanics and how to be in the NGO world. It's a foundation. That
was exactly what I wanted to say. The UN teach you how to think, how it gives you a solid planning, skills, thinking skills.
Definitely.
It's a pool of knowledge.
I also think, because I was going to do that as a career as well, it's such a bureaucratic world that if you can navigate it and if you can find yourself to know how to deal with people, you're already halfway there, because it's such a challenging, slow pace in a way that you have to find how do you navigate this.
Even the bureaucracy, you have to keep up with it.
Exactly.
I remember the abbreviations we had at the UN. I needed a dictionary to remember them, to be honest. And I was blessed of having people who believed in me. As I was saying, the UNRR back then, Dr. Mustafa was a big believer in young talents. He pushed me to the edge all the time. He challenged me. And he gave me responsibilities that were not for a fresh grad. They were way more advanced.
And the team was a Saudi-based team, or it was a larger context?
It was a Saudi-based team. We had international staff. I was a national staff, but we were exposed. Like my scope entailed dealing with the region, like a regional scope, even international at some point, like working on the Human Development Report, on the MDGs later on. So it was kind of holistic, approach, focusing primarily on youth. Youth and gender. So
and that's where you got your involvement in the youth element later.
I was in charge of good governance, crisis prevention, and poverty reduction. That was my portfolio, with focus on gender mainstreaming and youth empowerment. I had the chance to talk about issues back then that were taboos. We did our first conference of women and MDGs in Saudi. Back then, you're talking more than 15 years ago, where nobody dared back then to talk about the women. And Mustafa was very supportive. It was covered by all the news media. It was very challenging back then, so it was a breakthrough. I started building a love to work with youth, and I believe that investing in youth and investing in your sustainable development and the economy,
especially in our part of the world, I think maybe Saudi and Egypt are very similar, where we have such a huge proportion of the population under 25.
Absolutely.
And they need tools, they need support, they need work, they need so many things. Was it around the time at UNDP that you began to develop leadership skills, or was that a bit later?
Yes, it was about time. I was promoted really fast, like 2 or 3 years later. I was promoted to head of department. And it was, of course, with promotion comes responsibility.
Of course.
So I needed to put extra effort to prove myself, especially that I was surrounded by people with more experience, more knowledge, who were like old in the system. So it was quite challenging by then to prove yourself as a young female in a setup where you are surrounded by people who have a lot more experience.
And was it primarily a male environment?
It was equal.
It was equal.
It was equal. So I started building my management skills, building team, like showing flexibility, listening to the others, not to overshow your knowledge so you don't intimidate others. So those are skills that I built through time with years to become more patient, to control your impulsivity, at some point. Not to show off with your knowledge rather than listen more and make everyone feel involved in the decision making.
And you were in charge of a team by then of people?
Yes.
How many
so
people?
So there were 5 back then.
Okay.
It wasn't a big team. But our
still, I mean,
the team was small, even though in the UN back then. So those
all in all, you were with UNDP how long?
10 years, I would say.
That long?
Yes. The last year was an unpaid leave when I moved to Lebanon.
And
so 9 actual.
And during that years. Time, you had already gotten married, right?
Yes.
But then you were living in Saudi with your husband?
Yes, I was living in Saudi.
I see.
So it was maybe, I got married in 2008. I joined UNDP 2002.
I see.
Maybe 2003.
Yeah.
So
you remained in Saudi at the beginning of your marriage?
Yes, I remained in Saudi. And actually, when I was engaged, I got accepted in New York Film Academy. And I was about to go to fulfill my other passion.
Your other dream.
My other dream and my true passion. And I remember my husband telling me, let's get married, engaged, and then you can go.
And then we'll see.
Go do what to see. And the kids, and it's. But I always
life takes over.
Exactly.
Life takes over.
Life takes over. But
this could be phase 2.
I'm already almost in the field because I blend the art and filmmaking with what I do now. And I sit on board of different film festivals as jury member, as it's something that I built and acquired also with time. Few courses, I did few courses here and there. And I just, it's my passion.
It's your passion.
I followed my passion.
But it's so nice to have a sort of a passion that also complements what you're doing.
Exactly.
That you can balance, have the two.
When working with youth teach you a lot.
Yeah.
Like I figured out with time and experience and based on knowledge even and statistics and data that art and sports are the 2 easiest way to impact young people's hearts and minds.
That's true.
You need to speak their language. So if you keep preaching and giving just lectures,
it doesn't go
anywhere.
Through. That's true.
So blending those 2 elements together proved to be successful, and that's what I'm focusing on right now.
So you stayed on for 10 years with UNDP.
Almost.
And then tell me what came next. So you didn't move to Lebanon right away, or you did?
Yes, I did. And I was on unpaid leave with the UN. So until we settled in Lebanon, and we were skeptical whether to stay or move back to Saudi, the hesitance phase.
Then by then you had children.
Yes, and the revolution took place in Syria, everywhere.
Yes.
In Egypt.
2011. This is 2011 now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we decided to stay. To show
resilience. What had you had children-wise by then?
One.
Only one child.
My second was in 2012.
Okay.
The third in 2015.
Yeah.
So I had one back then, 2010, Sharif.
So you could still make a decision relatively easily.
Yes, especially that my house was in Saudi, my family was in Saudi, my surrounding, my environment, my friends. So it was an easy way back for me.
You had a cushion in case you needed to come back.
Absolutely. It was always a press of a button, and I can go back. And my husband was very, open and understanding. He said, if you cannot make it, you don't like it, we can still move back.
And what was it that took you to Lebanon? Was it it was his work?
His work, his family is there as well. So we decided to take the step.
Do you think of yourself as a risk taker?
Yes, calculated risk.
Calculated risk. And him as well?
Yes.
Because I think with something like that, you have to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
You have to be jumping into this
together
with the same eyes open, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And to have the same, of course, core values and vision and
exactly.
plan. My husband was very flexible. He told me, whatever you decide, if you don't feel comfortable, we can go. But I felt that I needed to give him the push.
And you needed to try it.
Exactly.
I mean, if you had not tried it, it would have always been in your mind saying, what if?
Absolutely. Yeah. I hate the what if.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it. I jump into it and see and there's always a chance to change.
Exactly. And I find from our part of the world, you have to be flexible.
Absolutely.
You never know, one day to the next things change. I mean, we know that 2011 was the
COVID
perfect
taught
COVID
us this.
and 2011, the year of the
Absolutely.
revolution when you moved. Everyone was making plans to change things.
Absolutely. Anything can happen
Anything can
anymore.
happen.
Don't
Exactly.
overplan and
Exactly.
don't underestimate what can happen.
That's right.
Short-term planning, I believe, is more effective.
Yeah.
So we decided to stay in Lebanon.
And then you left UNDP, or you didn't continue with them
No,
after
I
your
was
unpaid
on
year?
yes, unpaid year. It was back then when Mentor came to the scene. So I received a call from His Highness Prince Turki bin Talal bin Abdul Aziz, who is now the current Prince of South of Asir in Saudi Arabia, saying, Thuraya, we have this foundation that we are building, and I would like you to be part of it. Are you willing?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, of course, with pleasure. I'll be proud to be on board. Let me give it a try, like for 6 months, and see how I would feel about it. And I was invited.
And this was something, of course, you could do from Beirut.
Of course, because the head office was in Beirut. It was just getting established.
But it was a Saudi-led initiative.
No, it's an international initiative. So Mentor Foundation is headed by Queen Sylvia of Sweden.
In Sweden, yes.
It was established 30 years ago. And one of the founders also on the royal board was Prince Talal, the belated Prince Talal, Allah yarhamu, bin Abdul Aziz, alongside Queen Sylvia. And they opened the branches back then in Europe and the States.
But what I mean is the
chairman of the board was Prince Turki bin Talal.
Exactly. And so it was spearheaded from Saudi for the Middle East.
Yes.
Section of
Yes,
Mentor
so
Arabia.
they registered Mentor Arabia as a regional chapter in Lebanon back then. And we had many reputable, esteemed figures sitting on board as founders, some from Egypt, from Kuwait, from the Arab world.
And you joined at a time of huge upheaval in the region.
Absolutely.
So their whole remit and their whole philosophy was probably being reconsidered.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I saw in it an opportunity, a chance to have a stamp.
When we come back after the break, Thuraya and I talk about the passing of her father last year and what it meant to her. This episode is brought to you by EFG Hermes One, your one app for investment across more than 35 stock markets worldwide. With EFG Hermes One, you can buy and sell orders in real time for immediate execution across multiple global markets. You can keep track of your favorite stocks by creating and customizing multiple watch lists and make informed investment decisions with their advanced technical analysis tools to study market trends and investor behavior. So supercharge your financial journey and download the EFG Hermes One app on the Apple App Store and on Google Play and start investing today. Welcome back to my conversation with Thuraya Ismail. As well as talking about Mentor Arabia and her career, we also talk about being a mother to 3 boys. I think it's so cute, though, when you have 3 boys, because they become their own group.
Very close, and we are very close.
And they're close in age, which is also very nice.
I feel I am their friend. So, yes, they are my jewels, and I'm
very
proud of having it. It's not easy.
It's hard.
It's very hard.
Because you're doing a lot of, your business is very demanding.
Yes, it is.
And 3 boys is not easy.
It's very hard.
I have 2. And I find it hard. بس لا ما فيش. I'm done.
You know, I always also wanted a girl afterwards.
I did too.
Big time. And especially after losing my father last year.
I wanted to talk to you about that. And you were very, very close with your father.
Very super close. And I would say that was a turning point in my life. That kind of pain that will never go away.
Was he ill?
Suddenly.
It was a very sudden.
Very, very sudden. The war happened in Lebanon. I flew to Saudi with my family. And it was, I think, when I look back, it was a sign of God that He made me spend 2 months with Him. Otherwise, I would have been in Lebanon.
I don't know what's worse, because my father passed away nearly 4 years ago from Parkinson and complications of Parkinson. But he'd had Parkinson for 8 years. And it was a slow degeneration. It's a very slow disease. The last year was much more accelerated, but it's very hard when you see someone passing away slowly like this. But I also think what you went through, when it's sudden, for the person it's okay,
but
it's
for
good.
you,
but for the family, it's very difficult.
I echo what you're saying in 2 ways. My mother also suffers from Alzheimer's. And we were kind of starting to accept it and deal with it and live with it for 10 years now. She was too young when it happened. And our father was always the backbone. He was pulling everything together, pulling us together. He would talk to my mom, I swear to God, in a very normal way. I would forget that she's sick or ill. He treated her normally and she would answer him normally, even though she had Alzheimer's. When I look back at his actions since last July to December when he passed away and start to connect and analyze, he as a physician as well. He knew deep inside, but he couldn't pinpointing it because all the tests were normal. Going through this, the trauma was for me and for my siblings a life changer.
And how was your mother?
My mother, with her case, she didn't know. He died, but she missed him.
But she felt him not there.
Of course. She kept asking him for months and months. And I feel she deteriorated after losing him because he was the source of strength for her. He gave us...
And he was the constant one with her.
Absolutely. So it's never easy. These are moments in life that flip everything around. You don't, that intensity of the trauma or the sorrow of the pain.
So this happened less than a year ago. Last
December 2024.
You've already said it was a huge change and a pivot for you.
Yeah.
How?
Lessons learned. Live your life to the most. My father used to love life. He was full of life. He likes to travel, to invite, to go out. He knew how to live. And this is something I carry with me. As long as you are healthy, as long as you are, just cherish the moment, live the present. Don't overplan, don't look back. He hated regrets. He used to live the moment. And this is something I learned. I also learned that there's no guarantee for life. Life can betray you any second, any minute. Be prepared and be strong. Be strong. My father was fighting one of the toughest diseases in the world, He was full of dignity, of strength. To the last minute, he was practicing his profession. He was actually helping other patients while he was in the ICU. The power of the brain. He was controlling his pain. He was controlling everything so he doesn't make us feel sad.
Also, I find it always fascinating. Doctors always fascinate me because I think of them like people with a lot of faith. They are so committed to their job. It's like being a priest or an imam. There's a faith
to the core.
To the core.
It's one of the most human.
Exactly. So you become a doctor. If you become a doctor for the right reasons, then you do it. You'll go anywhere to help someone.
I saw it firsthand. He was in the ICU on the bed, fighting death, and all his worry was how to treat others, how to help, receiving calls, telling them what to do, and this is something big. When I look at him and trying to ease our pain by saying, he told me once, like it was 1 week before passing away, he said, I will be in a better place. I said, what? I was like, I freaked out. He said, no, I will go home. He didn't want me to be scared, The love that parents could give to their children.
And you said it already, how lucky you were to have those 2 months with him.
Absolutely.
That for me, these are the things that you can't explain. If the war hadn't happened, you wouldn't have gone back to Riyadh. These are the things that you can never...
The power of universe.
Exactly. These unwritten things that happen.
If it wasn't for this war, which was, of course, destructive and violent, and I wouldn't have been in Riyadh with my... if I was there, my kids won't
Exactly. You were all there goodbyes. As a family.
SubhanAllah,
it's incredible.
It's fate.
I'm going to end with you on what we call the lightning round, which is this very fun, light... I'm going to throw things at you and you just answer.
Shoot.
Some new ones. I will exactly shoot. What is your most used emoji?
I like the face with the heart eyes.
Oh yeah, I like that one too. If you had
it's not too expressive. It's not less. It's just right.
It's right. If you had 25 hours in a day, what would you do with that last hour?
With the last hour, I would call my mom.
You'd call your mom
Yeah.
and hang out on the phone with her.
Yeah. My kids or like family.
Yeah.
I would spend it with family. Family.
Okay. Looking ahead, what is something you're excited about? It can be personal, it can be professional, but it can also be something, wider, bigger
Mm,
picture.
few things. I'm excited about launching something that is also my baby, other than mentor. It's a combination of things. It's too early to talk about it, but it's a project that I am very, very looking forward to launch. It has multiple elements. It has to do with social development, with media, with online presence. So this is something
Okay,
that
we'll talk about that in a year or two.
sure,
We'll have another
pleasure.
conversation.
I'm looking forward how to see my children growing. And Sharif probably is close to university years now. So I'm very keen on and interested to see how he will grow and to which university
And
he
where
end up
he'll go.
going.
If you're looking ahead, also, what is something you're concerned about?
Stability in the region. Um, having the strength to ask my kids to retain them, to stay in Lebanon, in their country. I want them to be grounded and rooted in their country. I want to emphasize their identity. So this has been very challenging, retaining them and other youth in Lebanon, for
Yeah,
instance.
because there's a brain drain happening, right, in
It's
Lebanon.
happening.
It's not
It's
just
insane.
Lebanon, it's all of us.
You feel the Mother Earth
Yeah,
is boiling.
yeah, you feel
There's
it.
something not normal.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know if it's
agree.
the alignment of the
Yeah, I
stars or
agree
the.
with you. I can feel
This is
something
a
is.
concern. Having the strength to
Yeah.
be resilient and to just make it through.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. If you had to choose another profession, what would you pick?
Actor.
Really? I love that.
Because I like to be able to live different feelings and different professions or roles in the society,
Characters.
characters where you are not judged by. So it's a
Did you
platform.
ever do it in school?
I used to do all the plays in school.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah,
always on
yeah,
stage. So it's something I was passionate about, and I kind of received a few offers, by the way. Still do.
yeah,
But I don't know if I dare to do it right
yeah,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I kind of I have it as a parallel thing. I like to support
But
this
I think it's
industry.
always nice for someone to have like a little dream, a
Yes.
what if,
Yeah.
you know?
And be able to live different characters where you are
Exactly,
not judged, there's no
exactly.
stereotyping, and you
Yeah,
can let all your emotions out
that's
because
true.
we are judged on our
That's
emotions in
true.
the Arab world.
That's
You
true.
don't have enough space
Yeah,
to express your feelings freely, unless you are thoughtfully with a friend or with a,
true. That's true.
it's not easy.
What's your favorite activity?
Sports. I love going to the gym, and weights are very important to the bones.
Yeah. And
When
as we get older,
as we get older,
very important.
I like to have enough sleep. I have sleeping deprivation,
Yeah,
so when I'm deprived from sleeping my 7 or 8 hours a
yeah,
day, I can't
yeah.
function.
So it's basically more of a
Health, and even
looking after health.
now when I'm thinking about it, I love my coffee time with dear friends.
Hmm.
It makes me breathe.
Yeah.
I laugh. We talk about even silly stuff. It gives me,
Yeah.
joy
I think
just to
I
be
like that because it makes you feel back to being young again and younger
actually
and
no
silly.
responsibilities,
Exactly.
no
Exactly.
judging, especially with your childhood
Yeah.
friends. If you don't see them for 10 years and you bump into them, you will remain the same
Same.
and you will talk
Absolutely.
freely.
Exactly.
So I like, and now I become to, I'm cherishing those moments more
Yeah.
and more
Of
after
course.
my father.
Of
They are
course.
my outlet.
Of course. Of course.
So
Of course. What's your least favorite activity?
I don't like routine. In general, not specific
Mhm.
activity. I'm not someone who can sit behind a desk 24/7 or 10 hours a day. I'm a more of a people
Yeah.
person. So having like sometimes I need to be behind the desk,
Sure.
finish what I need to
Yeah.
finish. This for me is heavy.
But I think your lifestyle with a lot you do so much public speaking
True.
that allows you to have that freshness. Yeah,
Absolutely. I
yeah.
don't get bored.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
having to deal with so
Yeah.
many initiatives here and there. Like I'm now in Egypt for the Egypt Entrepreneurs Award. I'm on board. So this gives me, different
Absolutely.
diversity.
For sure.
It keeps me
Yeah.
going, for example.
Last two questions. I'm going to begin a sentence and you end it.
Sure.
I have a hard time.
I have a hard time accepting my father's death. I'm still in denial. I don't know if I will ever be able to accept. I'm still in the grieving phase. It scares me to face it. I don't even listen to his voice messages because if I listen to them, it's a confirmation and affirmation that he's gone.
Yeah.
So I convince myself he's there somewhere. I'm in Lebanon, he's in Riyadh, he's in Dubai, somewhere out there. It's just that he doesn't call me.
That's how you're dealing with it.
Maybe it's not very healthy, but for the time being, for now, I'm keeping myself busy. I'm unable to process yet. Maybe with time, I will be able to face the situation.
I wonder if that's because his death was so sudden. In my situation, I had already began processing it before he died. So it's a different feeling, you know. My experience of all this is that it's in waves. Grief is waves. It doesn't stop at any point.
Yeah.
It just continues, but it hits you at different points.
Absolutely.
But it never ends.
Because it was shocking and quick, also because my father was very central in my life.
Yeah.
And the life of my children and my husband and the family of my husband. And he was very present with every single detail. If I would travel at my age with my kids, he would track
the flight.
To make
my
sure
was
even
like
at 2 a.m., the first message Malak I would receive would be
Did you land?
لا, he knew.
الحمد لله على السلامة
يا عيوني. And then the phone rings when I read
My father was like that.
So you're talking about someone that is full of care and present.
It's very difficult, very difficult. We're going to end on a nice, happy note. I get joy from
the love of people around me. My husband, my children, my siblings, true friends. They become family. And I get also joy from giving. I'm a person who likes to give.
So that's also your job.
Freely.
You found a niche where that is the role of Mentor Arabia.
Giving gives me a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. I think I also inherited this from my father. He was a giver, you know, and I think indirectly it's embedded in me. Trust me, wallahi, when I give anything, emotions, attention, time, I feel satisfied that I impacted someone's life. I had my print. I helped somewhere here or there. Even strangers sometime on the road.
Oh, yeah.
Airport. So these are the two joy sources.
Thuraya, thank you. This was amazing.
Thanks to you, Malak.
I really enjoyed this so much. And I'm very appreciative that we managed to find the time. And I'm very impressed with all you're doing, and I wish you luck.
I want to thank you for having me. And your show is very inspiring. I watched some of it. Your character, your presence, your smooth way of doing things. You make it flawless.
Thank you so much.
To the guest. And I want to thank Dina, our beloved Dina Mufti, our common friend, for introducing me to you and recommending me for this show.
Thank you.
She's a brilliant person.
She is.
And I get really, sense of satisfaction when I see successful women empowering each other.
Come back next week for more from Thuraya Ismail and a more in-depth look at Mentor Arabia and especially the work they're doing in the drug prevention area. Thanks for joining me today. I'm Malak Fuad. This show was produced by Shirag Desai.